All right. So what is the airspeed indicator measuring? It's only measuring, we'll speak about this. It takes the ram air pressure, which is the raw air pressure coming from the outside, and it just compares it to how much of the air. We'll speak about the formula. There's a beautiful formula. Total air pressure is equal to static pressure plus dynamic pressure. This airspeed indicator, we need to remember, is calculating dynamic air pressure. So to calculate dynamic air pressure, it is dynamic air pressure which is equal to total pressure minus the static pressure. So you need to have two things. You need to find out what is the static pressure of the air outside the plane and what is the dynamic pressure of the air. So there are three values: total pressure, dynamic pressure, static pressure. Airspeed indicator shows you your dynamic pressure. So you have to calculate your total pressure and you have to calculate your static pressure. Now, just like the distance, time and speed formula, if you know two of the values, you can find out the third one, right? As long as you know two of the three, you can either know total pressure and static pressure, you can find out the dynamic pressure. If you know the static pressure and dynamic pressure, you can calculate the total pressure. In a simple way, that is like saying 100 is equal to 80 plus 20. Agreed? 100 is equal to 80 plus 20. 80 is equal to 100 minus 20. Everybody agrees with that? 20 is equal to 100 minus 80. That's exactly what total pressure, let's say, is 100. Dynamic pressure will be 80, for example. Static pressure, let's say, is 20, or the other way around. As long as we know two of those values, we can find out the third one. Yep. Now, that's what we will do. We'll look at the formulas and so on. This is the instrument which is only showing you pitch up, pitch down, left and right. Altimeter, which is showing you your altitude, which is showing you how high you are above the sea level, or whatever the reference you're going to give it. Now look at this. If you look at this, what's happening inside the altimeter? You see that? Inches of Hg. What is that, inches of Hg? Mercury. So now I have to push this button. You see what's happening? I'll be like, this is 69er Alpha Juliet, blah, 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 requesting for ATIS information or requesting for weather information. And they'll tell you, oh, the weather is blah, 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 blah. Altimeter setting, 29.92 inches of mercury. Ooh, that is the ideal, right? Ideal according to the ISA. Or 1013.2 hectopascal. So or on today's temperature and blah, 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 they might say, according to today's setting, it is 1020 hectopascal. So before you take off, is everybody understanding? Before you take off, you have to set 1020. Whatever you hear on the radio, 1020 set. You can either use millibars or you can use inches of mercury. Some countries will give you in inches of mercury. Some countries will give you in millibars or hectopascals. By the way, millibar is the exact same as hectopascal. 1 hectopascal is 1 millibar. 1013.2 hectopascal is the same as 1013.2 millibars. Does that make sense? No. US is inches of mercury. Right? Outside the US, it is millibars or it is the hectopascal, same thing. Make sense? Now, also look at this one. Here it's saying calibrated to 20,000 feet. What does that mean? Well, first of all, it's only calibrated up to a maximum of 20,000 feet. So I can't go about 25,000. I can't go about 20,000 feet in this plane. Yes, you cannot. But is that of a concern? Not really. I'm not in a private jet. I'm not in an airliner. I am in a. Which plane is this?
Cessna.
It's a Cessna 172. And a Cessna 172 will probably max out at 12,000 feet. It'll probably max out at 12,000 feet. So you don't have to worry about it. Make sense? So let's move on. Everybody okay with the altimeter? Now let's look at the turn coordinator. This turn coordinator, where's Damien? All right. This turn coordinator is obviously showing you how much of aileron and how much of rudder is needed. You see that black ball in the center? That black ball, Omar, needs to be always in the center. During takeoff, during landing, during cruise, during turning, and most importantly, during turning. If I'm doing a turn, I don't only turn with my hands up in the air. I use a little bit of aileron and a little bit of rudder. So if I have to turn left, I have to add a little bit of left rudder with my left leg and a little bit of left hand movement. Now, how do I know how much is too much? How can I say little bit of aileron and a little bit of rudder? What do you mean by little bit? How do I know if I'm not using too much of aileron? Or how do I know I'm not using too much of rudder? So we,
That point.
exactly, that ball will tell you if you're using the right amount of aileron and the right amount of rudder. So how do I do it? I gently start turning left, and I also start applying left rudder with my left heels, not the toe. This plane will turn to the left. Now you need to bring this plane to the white line. Yeah?
But don't go over it.
Yeah, don't go over it. But even if you don't go all the way to the white line, as long as the plane starts moving, that's fine. Keep the ball in the center, basically. If the ball goes to the left, we call it step on the ball, which means if the ball goes to the left, you need to apply more left leg, more left rudder. If the black ball goes to the right, we have to apply
Right rudder.
more right rudder. Does that make sense? Yeah, Tivaru? More right rudder. So in this case, it clearly tells you no pitch information. It does not show you if your nose is going down or up. That only your attitude indicator shows you if you're going up or down, left and right. Now this will show you left and right, but it will not show you pitch up and pitch down. Any questions about that? Now, more importantly, this is very important information. Where is Damien? Went to the washroom?
So on the ground.
On the ground?
Yeah, the rudders on the ground and on the air they work in opposite directions.
On the ground and in the air, rudder works in the exact same directions.
So you push the right rudder and it will turn towards the right.
If you press the right rudder, the plane will yaw to the right,
Yeah.
in the ground and on the air. But here the ball is telling you, if you need more left rudder, the ball will go to the left side. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
If the black ball in the center goes to the left side, it is telling you apply more left rudder.
Okay.
If the ball goes to the right, it is telling you not enough right rudder, apply right rudder. So the statement to remember is step on the ball. Step on the side of the ball. Obviously, don't pull your leg and step on the physical ball in the turn coordinator. Anyways, now, turn coordinator helps you coordinate your ailerons and your rudder. Little bit of aileron and a little bit of rudder. As long as the ball is in the center and the wings are turning, you're doing a beautiful job. If the ball goes out or in, you're either in a slip or in a skid, which is not good. All okay? Moving on. The next one is, obviously we already spoke. Now look at this. This button, if you spin, what's happening there? That's technically basically a bookmark. You know, like a bookmark? You put it in the book so that you don't forget something. Similarly, if the air traffic controller told you, maintain heading 120, and you're doing a lot of other things. So quickly you will set this to 120. It's just for your mental remembrance. It's a bookmark. You know what I mean? Now, if you are flying a certain direction and after some time you know, all right, once you hit a certain place, fly all the way to so and so area and then turn right to heading 160. So you're like, okay, I have to fly all the way to the river, whatever. You're doing a VFR flight. So your instructions are fly all the way to a point and then turn right 160. You're going to forget that 160 quickly. All right. Quickly add that to wherever you want it to be as a remembrance item. That is purely, it's called as the heading bug. You can use it or you never have to use it, but please use it because it's very helpful. You're so stressed out, so many things happening, the radios are talking to you, constantly they're telling you stuff and you'll forget. Most important information about headings, set it. Does that make sense? Also, if you are supposed to right now fly at 120 degrees, and if you have set it at 120 degrees, now when you're flying, you're like, oh, I am off. It'll kind of show you that you're not at the right heading. Does that make sense? You can use the heading bug in any way you like, but use it as a memory item. Yep. Now these orange arrows, you see this? This. It's basically giving you the 90 degree of wherever you are. If the air traffic controller told you, all right, let's make a 90 degree turn to the right. This is your current heading. What is the 90 degree heading right now? This one. So you just need to be like, okay, I need to make a 90 degree right turn. So boom. I set it there and then I started turning and you follow that bug until that heading bug comes right in front of you. All okay with that? These are the things. Damien, you're back? Yeah. So I did not tell you a very important thing about the turn coordinator because he wasn't there. Now let me talk about this word 2 minutes. If I keep the black ball in the center and if I'm doing a perfect turn by using the right amount of aileron and the right amount of rudder, in 2 minutes, I'm going to end up doing a 360 degree turn. Which means now irrespective of your speed, you could be at 140 knots, you could be at 80 knots, you could be at, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at what speed you are. As long as the ailerons and the rudders are coordinated and the black ball stays in the center and your wing is at this white line, either turning left or turning right. Either it's this wing is at this white line or at this white line, and the black ball remains in the center, you will end up making 360 degrees in 120 seconds. So that means 180 degree turn will be in 1 minute, 60 seconds. Make sense? All okay with that? So by that formula, you have to calculate how many seconds for every degree. So let's break it down. 360 degrees is equal to 120 seconds. Everybody okay with that? 360 degree, one full circle. Half a turn, 180 degree, basically like a U-turn. 180 degree is equal to, please write it down. I want you all to write this down. It's all memory items. Omar, you should have your book. It should be constantly making notes. 60 seconds is equal to 180 degrees, right? Yeah. Now let's break that down. Half of 180 is 90. 90 degree is going to be equal to how many seconds? Half of 60, 30 seconds. Half of 90 is 45. 45 degrees is going to be equal to how many seconds? Write down. Start writing it down. 360 is equal to, we are calculating a full 2-minute turn in a 360 degree. So if I keep the turn coordinated with the aileron and the rudder, in 120 seconds, in 2 minutes, I will cover 300, write down, 360 degree is equal to, 360 is equal, degree is equal to 120 seconds. 120 double dash for seconds, or you can write down as SECONT. Next line, 180 degree is equal to 180. 180 degree is equal to 60 seconds. Make sense? 90 degree is equal to 30 seconds. Right? You see how it's getting half, half, half? 45 degrees is equal to 180 degree is equal to 60 seconds. 45 degrees is equal to 15 seconds, right? And what is half of 45? Doesn't matter. Right now, we'll go straight down to, we'll go down to 1 second. No, 1 second, this side. Every 3 degrees will give you 1 second. So if you divide 360 divided by 120, what are you going to get? 360 divided by 120. So for every second, you'll have to turn 3 degrees. This is called as a time turn. And during your pilot training, one of the initial lessons you're going to learn is how to turn your plane with the right time. There will be a stopwatch. The instructor will tell you, show me a time turn. Let's go from 180 degrees to 360 degrees, which is 180. How many seconds you should take? You should take exactly 60 seconds. And he'll tell you, all right, your time starts now, boom. And then as soon as he hits the clock, you start turning. And throughout the turn, for 60 seconds, throughout the turn, your ball needs to remain in the center. The wings need to be on the right. Does that make sense, Omar? Yes, and exactly, not 59 seconds, not 61 seconds, at exactly 60 seconds, you would have completed your 180 degree turn. And this is so important that you will be doing this throughout your instrument training. And every time you turn in your instrument training days, you will be turning based on time turns. So sometimes your instructor will be like, all right, show me a 15 degree turn. How many seconds for 15 degrees? So 3 degrees every 1 second. 15 divided by 3 is? Within that, you have to get it. 5 seconds. So you'll start 1, 2, 3. You start 1, 2, 3, right? So 5 seconds later, boom, you level off. You should have not gone more than a degree. You have to practice this until you get it right. Now, this is the instrument which is so important because all of our calculations in instrument training are based on the fact that you will be turning, it doesn't matter what speed it is, 747 or a A380 or a Cessna 172. If your ball remains in the center and if your wings are touching the white line on the turn coordinator, you will make a perfect 360 degree turn in 120 seconds, which means for every 1 second, in every 1 second, you're turning only 3 degrees, not more, not less. Yep, that's very important. So I was waiting for Damien to say that. All right, now let's move on to the last instrument. Now, first of all, we already spoke about the heading indicator. The heading bug shows you the bookmark kind of a thing. This, you turn and you set this to your magnetic compass before you take off on the ground. All right, understood, because I've been changing it. Going crazy. All right, now finally the vertical speed indicator. The vertical speed indicator is also using pressure. Just like your airspeed indicator, just like your altimeter, vertical speed indicator is also using a bag of air which moves. How fast the bag of air moves shows you how fast you're climbing and descending. Why? Because this bag of air is similar to the packet of chips I keep calling. The packet of chips, when you go up the mountain, what happens to the bag of air? It starts expanding. So inside these pressure instruments, so as we spoke about pressure instruments, gyroscopic instruments, the pressure instruments all have a aneroid, right? Aneroid barometer, which means the air packet which opens up and closes. And then we also have the gyroscopic instrument. They all have a gyroscope. The big difference is some gyroscopes have vacuum driven, so engine suction pump, which is spinning the gyroscope at crazy speed, or it is an electric gyroscope. Everybody okay with that? All right, let's keep moving. Now let's talk about, all right, these are the 6 basic primary flight instruments. You can either look at this screen on my laptop or you can look at the wall. Those are the only acceptable names. So let's go through this. I want every one of you to memorize the names of these instruments in the exact same order. You should draw 6 circles. In your exam, I'll ask you to draw 6 circles and I'll tell you to name them all in the exact same order. So I want you to even close your eyes and imagine this. All right, airspeed indicator, the attitude indicator, or the artificial horizon. 2 names: artificial horizon or attitude indicator. Third one, altimeter, turn coordinator, directional gyro or heading indicator, and finally the VSI, vertical speed indicator. You need to memorize them in the same exact order. All okay with that? Right, now, we already spoke about this. This is your 6-pack. Gyroscope, gyroscope, gyroscope. Air pressure system, air pressure system, air pressure system. All right? Now, let's move forward. Now, that your planes, some of the older planes, even though you might not be flying planes with the old cockpit, you still have to know how it's done. You still have to know exactly what the instruments are. Now, let's quickly go out and change the plane. Yeah, flight configuration. Now, let's go to the Garmin G1000. All of the same systems are included, but it's all integrated into screens. And this is what you'll be pretty much flying. The Garmin G1000, the state of the art. It has 2 screens. What do you call this screen? Now, the entire system is called as EFIS. That is, what does EFIS stand for? Electronic Flight Instrument System. Right? That is the entire EFIS. But, so please write it down, EFIS. But EFIS has 2 screens. The PFD, primary flight display, PFD on the left, MFD, multi-function display. Please write it down. PFD screen and MFD screen. Primary flight, PFD, primary flight display.
What's
EFIS is electronic flight instrument system. Everybody okay with that? The left screen is the primary, so it's primary. Sorry? MFD is multi-function display. Primary flight display, multi-function display. And now in this, you have a lot of similarities. Let's start with the similarities, right? The flaps, all the other buttons, everything else is the exact same way. The difference is you have a backup instrument here. Look at that. You have 3 backup instruments. You have the altimeter, you have the attitude indicator, and your airspeed indicator. You have manual devices as backup. But your original device here will be all electronic. They obviously use the G1000 Garmin, it's like a computer. And it's got all the LCD screens and the computer devices calculating everything for you, which is amazing. But you still need to know how the other systems work. God forbid if there's a problem with the screens, you at least have a backup instruments which purely relies on the old system. This, and this. Yep. So if suddenly the screen shuts down, this would, see that? Let's say the screen shuts down, yeah? If the screen completely shuts down and something goes wrong, what are you going to do? That will still operate. Does that make sense? So now let's say if you just walked into the plane, you first start your battery master switch, your alternator master switch, you'll turn on the bus, you'll increase the brightness and so on. This knobs here you see, are to increase the brightness of different things. Make sense? There are lights from the top hitting you. All of them can be increased and decreased. This arm and test. Now, you see this? If you press this, it is going to test if all the instruments are working correctly and so on. Anyways, moving on. Let me check if you see that? It's opposite. You see what's going on? It's reversed. Yeah. So this is supposed to be like that. So I just have to reverse this. Okay, not a problem. Let's keep moving. This instrument now here shows you all of your instruments. Let's start from the top. Here is your nav devices, navigation. Yep, different navigation, VOR, ILS, and so on, the frequency. This is your comms, communication 1, communication 2. And you see this arrow here? When you press this arrow, you can change the numbers. The green one is who you're talking to. Whatever number appears in the green color is the person who you're constantly talking to. This becomes your airspeed. This becomes your airspeed indicator on the left. So your airspeed indicator, if you look at this one, right, is all the way to the left. So that airspeed indicator is now on the extreme left. This is your airspeed indicator. This is your altimeter, which is all the way in the right. The entire screen is your attitude indicator. So this dots you see here, this is the equivalent of your the attitude indicator which shows there. So the whole screen is now this. 119 degrees is your current heading. This is your heading indicator. Now vertical speed indicator is this black little line. See this black line? This happens to be the, now since the plane is already shut down, let's mixture half, yeah, you put the mixture in half, throttle all the way out, just a little bit in. Before you start the plane, you see this? That's how the plane will be. The plane will be completely on off position. So we have to turn all the way to both, and then we hold the key and we go just like a car, yeah? Now we crank it, but we have to make sure that the mixture is half, throttle is just a little bit, and you hold this until the engine turns on. It's not turning on. Add a little bit, sorry?
Which one was this?
Key. Add a little bit more throttle, right? Maybe increase the mixture a little bit. Start.
It's already started.
Did it start already? Yeah, it had started already. All right. Okay, so now the engines have started, right? So throttle all the way back. Your mixture somewhere halfway in between, right? Now, let's do a Mac check. Let's keep the mixture full, right? You know what? Let me go and fix it. Right, so look at the RPM there. The RPM indicator is here. When the throttle is all the way back, it is at 900, 800, 700, depends, right? Now, let's do a Mac check, right? Now, if I drop one of the Macs, so from both, I'll go to the left one. How many RPM? We have to first go to 1500 RPM. Yep, we have to go to 1000 or 1500. Let's start at 1000, yeah? Right now it is at 1040 RPM, 1050 RPM. Let's go and turn off one magneto and go to left. So only the left magneto is on, right is off. How much does the drop? Not bad, less than 100. Less than 100, amazing. So even with one mag, my engine is completely capable of operational. It's completely operational. Now let's go back to both. It should go back to 1050 or wherever it started from. Very good. Now go back and do the right one. 1, 2. You'll do this, and if you see more than 200 RPM drop, don't fly. Go back and get it checked. Now, I also want to do another thing. I want to go back to both, and it still comes back up. Yep, 1040, great. Now go back there, and what do I do?
Off.
When it off, what's supposed to happen? If it doesn't turn off, what does that mean?
It's grounded.
It's grounded, the live, it's not, the electricity is live as we spoke about it yesterday, and that should not happen. Anyways, moving on. Let's look at, all right. Yep, it's back on. All right, now your vertical speed indicator. You see this? This black line goes up and down, shows you vertical speed. This shows you your altimeter. Turn coordinator is the tricky one. Everything else is easily visible. Your turn coordinator, which used to be a black ball, and the plane's wings are nowhere to be found. Correct? It happens to be these arrows. These little arrows you see here. Yep. This arrow is your turn coordinator. You're supposed to match those two arrows. And this little cursor or this little white line below the triangle is the equivalent of black ball. Just like how the black ball went to the left and you applied left rudder, if this white line moves to the left, you apply more left rudder. If this white line moves to the right, you apply more right rudder. Does that make sense? This is the most important thing you have to remember. Now, when you're in a turn, this triangle will stay wherever it is. The top triangle will stay in the center. Your lower triangle will move to the left. You have to make sure that when the triangle goes to the left, the triangle and the white line stay with each other. So this will go here or here. This white line should also follow this triangle. Does that make sense? That's how you get your turn coordinator in your Garmin G1000. This first line is called as 10 degrees. The second line is 20 degrees and the third one is 30 degree. This is 45 degrees and this is 60 degree. You are never allowed to go more than 30 degrees in your VFR flights. Unless you're doing acrobatic or steep turns, you are not allowed to go to 45. You're never allowed to go above this line ever during your PPL training unless the instructor shows you how to do a steep turn. Make sense? So these are the 6 primary flight instruments. Now let's quickly go ahead and do a quick little flight. At full power. Now obviously the mixture is supposed to be full and it is. Right? All right there. I let go of the brakes. Add full power. As soon as you add full power, you'll notice the plane will obviously go to the left. Add more right rudder. Now I want to show you how it'll be 0, 0, 0 and suddenly the airspeed will appear 20, 25, 30. Right? Wait for 57 knots. You see that? It doesn't start from 0. It will suddenly appear from 20, 25. 45, 46, 47, 48, 50, 51, 52, 57 and I gently pitch up. That is what you're supposed to do. As soon as you see 57, start gently pitching up. This here is 10 degrees, 5 degrees, so 2.5 degrees, 5 degrees, 7.5, 10 degrees. 12.5, 15 degrees, 17.5, 20 degrees and so on. Do not go more than 15 degrees ever. Stay at 12.5 for your best. Yeah, so pitch up, pitch up, pitch up. Stop right there, yeah. Do not go more than 15. Ideally speaking, between 10 and 15 should be the best number. Yep, hand always on the throttle. Now, if you notice, your altimeter is telling you that you're already at 740 feet. Your airspeed indicator is telling you 71 knots. And you see those white lines there? That white line is the equivalent of the white line inside your airspeed indicator. What is the white line for? Flaps. If you are not inside the white area, you should not add flaps. Agreed? So that white line will appear here. If you go above 80 knots, it will become green. Do you see what I mean? The map is right here to show you a small screenshot of that map. Your GPS map is all over there, but also giving you a small window right there. Let me also show you what else you can see here. Navigation numbers. This 5000 is a marker. You have reminded yourself by setting the number 5000 that I need to go to 5000. 1050 is your vertical speed indicator. You are right now climbing at 1050 feet per minute. Make sense? Your turn coordinator needs a little bit of right rudder. Do you see that? I need a little bit of right rudder. Heading is 198 supposed to be. This is the heading bug. I have set my heading bug to this one, 198. Double click on it and it opens up. I have set the heading bug to 198. I am currently at 117. My navigation is set to 120. Make sense? Now, here, OAT. What does OAT stand for, Tiwaru?
OAT is oxygen.
Come on, it says 15 right there. So what do you think that is 15C?
Outside air temperature.
For 15 degrees Celsius. right? Nothing to do with oxygen, guys. ISA, what is ISA? International Standard Atmosphere. They're saying that right now you are at the exact international standard atmosphere. If it was 16 degrees, it would have said +1. If it was 14 degrees, it would have said -1. Make sense? What is XPDR, Ahmad? Very good, transponder. XPDR is a transponder. What does STBY stand for? Standby. Now, here the window shows you where the maps are and so on. Now, the other thing is, you see this arrow here? This is considering your winds. Look at this. This is showing you where the winds are coming from right now. It's a great tool if you have the glass cockpit. Everything is right here, right? Now, what I also want to show you is, let's go to the, okay, you see this button? When I press the radios, so right now, let's say you're talking to 118.275 because it's green. When I press this arrow, it changes. If I want to change the numbers, I can do this. You see this? You want to change, I want to talk to 13250. I set the number. Now I want to do this, it goes into green. Now I'm talking to 130.25 radio frequency, whoever that is. Does that make sense? COM1 and COM2. Right now COM1 is active. If I click on COM2, you see this? This lights up because I clicked on COM2. If I click on COM1, it will go back to this. This is going to show you your navigation. Look at that. GPS ENR. You see this? The arrow? I am setting the GPS signal to wherever I want it to be and so on. The range, look at that. Zoom in, zoom out. I turn this left, it zooms into where I am. I can zoom in all the way to my runway, or I can zoom out to see where I'm physically at. Now, direct. These are all GPS buttons. Let's not go there. Let's look at all of these buttons. I want you guys, I don't want you to spend too much time on your instruments for your 6-packs because inshallah you're going to be flying only the glass cockpits. You need to know each of these buttons. The first button, warning. You see this? These are called as the soft keys. When you click on that button, warning, it shows you what are the warnings. Right? It shows you all the different types of warnings. Nothing right now. NRST. Anybody wants to take a guesses? What is NRST? Nearest. These planes with the Garmin G1000 systems are so amazing that God forbid if you lose an engine and you want to know where is your nearest airport right now, or if you're running out of fuel, what do? You have to know how to find out your nearest airport on the map, physically called dead reckoning, right? By the way, the name of the movie Dead Reckoning is a real aviation terminology. The act of going completely manual and just looking at mountains, rivers, looking at a map and just completely relying on basic maps and looking outside, pen and paper method calculation and navigating to your destination is called as dead reckoning. As one of the chapters in dead reckoning, one of the chapters of navigation, we for 15, 20, 30, 50 years or 60, 70 years have been using, before the GPS came up, before the VORs, before the ILS, before all the electronic navigation systems came up, the method of navigation in aviation textbooks were called as dead reckoning. So the movie I'm referring to, obviously in your brains right now, is a very legit, real terminology. So the movie where it says dead reckoning is because they can't rely on any electronic, any computers anymore. So what do? They go back to their typewriters and they start manually adding all the information. Remember the movie? Dead Reckoning Part 1? Sorry? Part 1 or Part 2, whatever. So the name Dead Reckoning comes from that word. So when I say we're going to be dead reckoning in our navigation today, I'm not referring to the movie. I'm referring to the very old method of navigation called dead reckoning. So this is dead reckoning, where you take a map and visually start looking for signs and fly. But in the electronic systems, you click on the nearest and it will show you all the airports around you in your nearest area. OMDB, that's Dubai. We're right now already flying over Dubai, so saying that's the nearest airport. OMSJ, OMDM, right? This is not Abu Dhabi, this is halfway to Abu Dhabi, there's another one. So the point is, it will show you exactly which is the nearest one. And guess what? You can select, which button is that now? It should be this one, right? No, not this. Damn it. Okay. You can select, where's that? The down button, I can't see it. So you can select that and click on direct. And as soon as you click on direct and click on activate, right? As soon as you click on activate, oh, come on, nearest. And then click on direct, activate, enter. It'll start pointing to that airport and you just fly that needle. If you lost an engine or if you're running low on fuel, click on nearest, go choose the nearest airport and just fly towards that. Beautiful. That's obviously part of the GPS system. You don't have that if you don't have the GPS. Now, everybody okay with this button nearest?
This kind of
Shows you all the nearest airports.
also available in bigger aircraft, like a vector.
Yeah. Every small aircraft, any cockpit which has the X-Plane 1000 or the Garmin G1000 system, this is supposed to be the Garmin G1000
So
system.
for example, if it's a 777, with this nearest option be there?
Yeah, sure. 100%. They'll have even more better. This is a Garmin G1000 for the smaller planes. The bigger planes have even more better systems compared to the Garmin G1000. This is on a Cessna 172. On the bigger planes, they have even more amazing ones.
So is it like a vector?
Vector is a service provided by the air traffic controller giving you one by one headings.
Yeah.
This is direct GPS coordinates
Okay.
going straight in.
Okay.
Yeah, this is GPS. All right. Okay, now let's move on. Next button, TMR, REF. Anybody? Any guesses? TMR? Timers. Why do I need to start and stop the timers? You will be doing a time turns. The instructor will start the timer and tell you, show me a turn in 30 seconds. 1, 2, 3, start. He'll start and then you turn left. 30 seconds should be not more than how many? 30 seconds is how many?
30 seconds is... Oh, 99.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Multiplied by 3, guys.
Yeah.
30 seconds multiplied by 3, 90 degrees. Now, that's stuff. Reference done. Ident. What is ident? Transponder, remember, has a button called ident. When you press the button ident, you blink on the radar screen so that the ATC knows exactly who you are. Right? That's ident. So when you click on ident, you just blink. And the word ID, NT appears here, showing you that you are identing right now. And you should not ident unless the ATC asks you to press the button, because this is to help him. Now, what is 7401? Right there. 7401 is your squawk code. So I want to change the squawk code. Maybe the ATC told you squawk 3125. So you will click on this button XPDR, right? As soon as you click on it, so many options came. Right now it is on standby, which is why it is white. I have to first of all turn it on when I'm flying. And if I want the ATC to know my exact altitude, I have to click on the altitude mode. If you leave it on altitude mode, you are sending more of your information to the ATC live, and he can make a better decision about your routes and so on. Some airspaces will mandate you cannot enter our airspace unless you keep it on altitude mode. Some airspaces don't mandate it, so even if you're not on the altitude mode, it's okay. Now, let's click on the word code. All the numbers that appeared. What do I squawk? The ATC told you maybe squawk 3, 1, 2, 5. Boom. You see that? 3125 is now your new transponder code. Ooh, maybe, God forbid, there's an emergency. What is the squawk code, Omar, when you have fire on the plane? Yeah, something which starts with a 7, remember? So you can say, Mayday, 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 I have an engine fire, but you also want to declare it on your transponder. What is the Mayday code?
7700.
7700. So you hit on the transponder button, hit on the code button, 7700. Boom. You are now transponding 7700. You're squawking 7700. Everybody tracking you is receiving signals. All the ATC guys are like, uh-oh, this guy's going through a massive problem. Engine fire, engine dead, half of the plane missing, roof ripped out. Yeah? Planes on complete fire, passenger dead, pilot dead. All of those ridiculously horrible things you can think of is 7700. What is the, Damien, what is the number for radio failure? Starts with a 7. No? 7? What? Anybody? 7600. 7600. You squawk 7600 if you have lost your radios. If you have a complete radio failure, both the radios, COM1, COM2, 7700 for engine fire and all the other crazy emergencies. 7600 for the radio failure. And finally, God forbid, if you are in a situation where you are compromised and somebody else is trying to take over the plane, it is called as unlawful interference. We don't call it the hijack. It's not a textbook definition. In the textbooks, we consider that 7500, and that is how you squawk 7500 by pressing the button, and then you declare that, guess what? I am no longer in control of the plane. Somebody else has taken over the plane's control.
What is it called?
Unlawful interference, technically hijack. Now, God forbid if that happens and you have to declare 7500, you are making a statement saying that I am no longer in control of the plane, take necessary action. They might decide to shoot you out of the sky, right? There have been situations where a young pilot who lost radio communication and he was supposed to squawk 7600. 7600 is supposed to send a message to the ATC that my radios are not working. By mistake, he's on a solo flight, first time flying alone without the instructor, complete radio failure, COM1 and COM2 is dead. What does he do? He goes on the transponder. In a hurry, he gets a bit confused and he enters 7500. Fighter jets show up, real story. I heard about this when we were doing training. He's flying a little Cessna 172 single engine. His radios are not working, so he's unable to talk to any ATC. And he just declared that my plane's hijacked, but he's alone in the plane. Right? And he's flying towards the city. Well, that's because he was flying towards...
7500 mean?
7500 is unlawful interference. You're declaring hijack. Technically, you're declaring hijack, saying that somebody else is hijacking this plane, right? But the plane which was in question was a solo flight. Single pilot flying, no instructor, nobody, 4-seater, empty, 3 seats, 1 student flying. And instead of squawking 7600 because he lost his radios, he got confused. Now, this is what I tell you. Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. I don't remember this. Only one thing will get you killed. That's what happened with that student. Oh, he probably got 85% in theory classes. He just didn't know one thing. That one thing I didn't know. Unacceptable, because he squawked 7500. What that did is he sent a message out to everybody saying that he's hijacking the plane himself. Fighter jets were deployed. The plane is now flying in the same heading where he's supposed to go. But obviously he's going towards that airport. But now they're like, oh my God, he's heading towards that city. Right? Fighter jets showed up on his left. The fighter jets came and they're like trying to talk to him. The ATC is trying to talk to him. They don't know that he's lost his radios because he did not squawk 7600. He just went silent. And what did he squawk? 7500 that I've now, and they're all trying to talk to him. Nobody's responding. They send a fighter jet. 3 minutes later, the fighter jet shows up on his left wing. This guy is shitting himself, right? Because the minute you see a fighter jet, seeing any aircraft in the air right next to you is super scary, which is why you are not allowed to do formation flights ever. No civil aviation student pilot or commercial pilot or a instrument pilot, you're not allowed to do formation flights. Ridiculously scary having planes right next to you. Even when you're approaching and coming in for a landing, your plane is at least a mile or 2 away from you. And that looks so scary when you see a massive 737 and you're sitting in a Cessna 172 or a Diamond DA-40 and you're approaching. And he's like, you're number 3 for landing. And in front of you, there are 2 planes in the approach. They're going in and it looks scary, right? There was a time when I was coming in for a landing in a Cessna 172 in a Miami executive airport, right? And they said, increase your speed by 10 knots. I did. ATC comes back again, increase your speed by 10 knots. I did. And then he comes back again saying, can you increase your speed by 10 more knots? I'm approaching. I'm already at 80 knots, 60 and then 70 and then 80. I can't increase anymore. I can't be going down like a, like a wrecking ball at that crazy speeds and landing. He said, all right, if you can't increase your approach speed, I'm going to break you out. Told me to turn right, get out. I started turning right. And from the right window, I see this big, massive plane. Obviously, he's in approach right behind me. It wasn't that massive. Probably an A320 or a 737, whatever. The scariest view I've ever seen because I'm getting out of the approach and from the right window I see this other plane who's just going in towards the runway. So scary. He was quite far away. He was legally at the limit he's supposed to be. Anyways, the point is you're not allowed to do formation flights because of that. It's very scary to have other planes right in front of you and it's super difficult. So when the fighter jet shows up on your left, right, and you know for a fact that you screwed up. If, God forbid, you ever see a fighter jet showing up, they always show up on the left wing because you're sitting on the left seat as a pilot in command or as a student or as a pilot flying. The right seat is either for the instructor or for the second officer or first officer, whatever, co-pilot, whatever you want to call it. So in these smaller planes, it's a single pilot operation. So mostly it's one pilot flying and the other person on the right seat could be a passenger, right? The 2 people sitting in the back seat could also be passengers. So the fighter jet shows up on the left. The person is really scared because he knows, uh-oh, I must have done something wrong. They either show up because you've entered a prohibited area, or you're about to enter a prohibited area, or they've come to escort you out of that area and now you're not going home. If they show up on your left, it's the equivalent of police coming right behind your car with the lights on. And the police would pull you over. The lights on, pull over, and then you would go stand on the shoulder, but you can't do that in the sky, right? You can't just stop and discuss what went wrong. So what do? He shows up on your left and he starts communicating with you on 121.5 frequency. Please write down the universal emergency frequency is 121.5, 121.5 megahertz. This is the same frequency your emergency location transmitters are sending the beep, beep, beep signal when a plane crashes. You know the location finders? If the plane is lost in the middle of the forest, you can listen to this ELT, emergency location transmitter. Beep, 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 beep. The more closer you get, the signal gets stronger. So that beacon, which is sending the signal, is 1 to 1.5. You declaring Mayday, Mayday, Mayday is 1 to 1.5 if you're not talking to any air traffic control. If you're already with an air traffic control and you're talking to him already, you declare it to him. Mayday, 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 I have an engine failure, and you're going down. But if you are flying over an uncontrolled airspace, if you are flying over completely areas where there's nobody controlling you, and if you are never talking to anybody, and then you lose your engine, what do? Mayday, Mayday, Mayday on 1 to 1.5. So if I ask you, what is the emergency universal frequency? 1 to 1.5. So when the fighter jet shows up on your left wing, he tries to talk to you on 1 to 1.5 frequency. Now, if you happen to be inside a controlled airspace and you're talking to the tower already or something, if the fighter jet shows up on your left, you have to change it to 1 to 1.5. Obviously, inform the ATC you're speaking to. Sorry, I've just been intercepted. What is this? Intercepted is when a fighter jet shows up on your left and you're under investigation now, or you're under scrutiny. I have just been intercepted. I'm changing my frequency 1 to 1.5. Then you change 1 to 1.5. Hello, officer. Please don't press any red buttons. What can I do for you, right? So he's got his finger on his red button. He can shoot you out of the sky if he wants to. You're quickly supposed to establish. Now, if you're unable to establish communication, right, he can make a decision on what needs to be done based on the orders he receives. They rock the wing, right? You are supposed to immediately rock your wing gently and let him know that I am under your command. I am fully submissive. Your wish is my command, basically. If you don't rock your wing, that's you saying, screw you, I don't give damn about your authority, right? Please don't do that, obviously. This student in question who I was telling you about, right? We knew him during pilot training. So he's got a fighter jet on his left wing, waving, and he is like, uh-oh, you know that if the fighter jet shows up, I must have done something wrong. He kind of then realized already that, uh-oh, did I, 7500. He knows he can't just be like, oh, sorry, 7600, goodbye. No, it's too late. You've already declared that you're hijacking the plane. The plane rocked the wings. He rocked the wings. The person was so close enough that you can see the fighter jet and his head and his helmet, and he's like pointing at his radio like, talk to me. I'm talking to you on the radios. I'm talking to you on the radios. This guy is like, but my radios don't work, right? Because they were so close and the ATC did not basically, or the controllers or the military guys didn't give him a command to shoot him off the sky, it didn't seem very suspicious. So they took time to establish communication. And the guy obviously changed the transponder code to 7600 because he realized what had went wrong. So they're like, okay, and he's literally pointing saying, oh no, radio's done, radio's not working, Anyways, the squawk 7600. Now, the fighter jet does a gentle turn to the left. If the fighter jet does a gentle turn to the left, you have to follow him, right? He will stay a little bit below you or a little bit above you. Don't stay right behind him because his the vortices and the hot blasts can, affect you. So either stay a little bit below you, a little bit above you, whatever, right? Now he does a gentle turn to the left, you have to follow him. You cannot now go and land wherever you want. He'll take you to a military airport. You'll be interrogated for a few days. Nobody's going to see you for a few days. You might be stuck there for quite some time because it's a federal crime, what you've done. If for no reason you squawked 7500. So gently turn left. The pilot went. They took him to a military airport. The fighter jet turns around that airport, pointing that land in this airport. He opens his landing gear and slows down and he circles around an airport telling you land because he's unable to communicate. If your communication was working, he'll tell you on the communication, land in this airport, follow me, blah, blah, blah. And you're constantly talking to him on 1 to 1.5. And anyways, this guy goes and lands in the military airport. Nobody saw him for 3-4 days. He was scrutinized, he was interrogated, he was stuck there. Obviously, thank God, they found out that he was just an idiot with no hidden plans. So they cleared him after 3-4 days. Obviously, he was grounded. His licenses were suspended. Lots of serious consequences. You should just be happy that he was alive and lucky to be walking out of that center on his own legs, not on wheelchairs, right? So very, very dangerous. The reason I tell this story to all my students is because this should help you realize why it is so important to know everything. 90% is also considered as a bad score. 75 is the legal passing mark in all your theory exams. Because that student can literally tell me the same thing Dan's been saying, sir, I was so good in everything else. That was the only thing I wasn't 100% sure about. I was kind of doubtful about it. And that's what got him in trouble. There are hundreds of stories we hear about student pilots missing out some air law, missing out some small things, and which is what gets them in trouble. And I've heard accounts of students where they say, you know what, I was always bad in this topic. I never focused too much on this topic, and that's what got me in trouble one day. So it's very serious to learn everything, right?
What happened in the 9/11? Did they not declare agile?
That's different, right? That's a completely different thing. We all know what we know from the TV, and I don't have any other information about it more than what we've all seen on the TV, right? Moving on. Now, yes, they would have declared 7500 as well. I guess, I don't know. I have no idea. We don't think so. We have those information available, but we know everything from documentaries and news media, whatever we have seen. But anytime there's a hijack, the pilots, there have been situations when a person breaks into the cockpit, puts a gun or whatever on the pilot's head and say, turn left, go to that country, blah, blah, blah. And then he has to follow what the hijacker tells them to do in some cases. But he squawks 7500 informing the air traffic controllers and everybody else that it's no longer me. The plane is under the command of somebody else. So that is the transponder. Let's look at the transponder, a few more instruments. Ident. Now, the word VFR. If you were a 3510 or 3215, whatever the number was, you were squawking a very different number. If you want to suddenly turn and squawk the VFR code, there is a standard code called, if you are flying in VFR good weather and you don't want to bother the ATC, and if you're not in constant ATC's control, there is a special code for it, 1200. So if I press the word VFR, it will become 1200. In the manual transponders, you have to physically press 1200 to set the VFR code. By setting this number, you're telling the ATC that don't bother, I'm on my own, I'll take care of it, I won't bother you, I won't come, The ATC doesn't have to worry about you being on an IFR flight. Instrument flight, rule flight, he has to assign you a code. But if you're flying on a VFR flight, even though the ATC will still give you guidance and so on, he'll still monitor you, you will squawk 1200 throughout your pilot training when you're doing your VFR flights. When you're doing your instrument flights, it's different. When you're doing your long cross countries, it's different. But when you're doing your local flights, it'll always be on 1200. And because that's a very common number, they have kept a shortcut to directly press the button VFR so that it changes to VFR. Make sense? This is the back button. DME. What does DME stand for? We just spoke about it today. Distance Measuring Equipment. If I click on this DME, look at that. It tells you which one, nav 1, nav 2. The nav 1 should be set to the VOR. If you don't have a VOR, then if you're not tracking a VOR, then it won't show you. So Distance Measuring Equipment shows you how far away you are from a VOR. Make sense? CDI, this is the localizer. Your navigations, you can set the VORs and the navigation devices, and that needle will point towards whatever navigational device you are tracking. Right? CDI, that's NSAT, that's pretty much, these are all other instrument levels. So PFD, now look at that. In the PFD, you can turn on or turn off some of the things. Wind, look at that. I can have different types of, look at that. You see this? I can see what type of wind I'm getting, and you can see what type of device you want. Or you can completely turn it off. If you want to constantly see where the wind is pushing you from, you can have one option, two option, three option. Crosswind, tailwind, headwind, it'll show you, which is amazing during your cruise. Or you can completely turn it off, right? Or let's go back. Now, if you click on inset, inset is basically these tiny extra devices for extra information. This is available on the big screen, MFD, multifunction display. But for easier view, you can add a few more things on this. These are all the instruments you need to worry about. PFD, you click on the PFD. Wind, DME, flex. It's not working in this one. DME, PR1. Now, this is the localizer here. See this? This information is generally appearing in a bigger screen, but you can add it or remove it. Bearing 1, bearing 2. You can track two different, you see now everything is in one. The GPS, the navs, the ILS, everything has been activated. If you're not even doing an ILS or an instrument approach, you don't want all this extra useless information for you. Does that make sense? So you can remove all of this. You can even remove the DME or you can add DME. Distance measuring equipment, it will show you in nautical mile. How many nautical miles away from that VOR are you? So depends on what you want and what you don't want. You can reduce the information and make it nice and clear. Does that make sense? This is everything we need to know about our instruments. We'll go back and double click here so it goes out. Cool. Now let's keep taking off. Here, one more thing I'll want to show you is, you see that? Hold it at 12 degrees. Yeah, gentle. Yeah, see rudder. Yeah, a little bit. So if the rudder goes to if the line goes to the right, you quickly add a little bit of rudder. Yep. Now if you look at that, that's a full nav screen. And if you look here, all of this you need to monitor. This is super important. Now let's focus on this and we'll take a break. This that's the primary flight display. This is the multifunction display. In the multifunction display, how do I, there's a way to open this. Oh, come on. All right, not happening. All right, so this is our current RPM, 2220 RPM. Fuel flow. We already spoke about this yesterday in the other plane, right? Fuel flow is right now 6.5 gallons per hour. Which gallons? US or Imperial? US, because it's the Cessna. PSI, oil pressure, 76 in the green. Oil temperature, 185 what? Fahrenheit. You can change this to degrees also, Celsius also by going into the system. EGT, what does EGT stand for? Exhaust gas temperature, vacuum. They all need to stay in the green. Too much is bad, too little is also very bad. Fuel quantity, this is showing you how many gallons we have. Left tank, right tank. Right now they're at like around 15 or 14 each. Engine, your engine is right now at 29.7 hours. Remember I told you there's the time right below the RPM, that's what it's showing. Electric, it should have at least 24 or more. If you see less than 24, don't fly. Right now it's 26.5 volts, 26.5 volts, battery in ampere, all of that. Here you can change some of the systems. You see this? Fuel indicators, you can change. You can add numbers, different resets and so on. You can go back to the system. You can click on the map and you can, depending on what you want to see, different airways. Remember the airways? Highways in the sky? You have those triangles. Remember the triangles I spoke to you about? Fix? Yeah, you have all those triangles, fixes on the airways. I can turn on the airway. I can turn off the airway. I can add different navigational devices, terrain, topography, or you don't want terrain, you know, all sorts of stuff can be added. Make sense? If you want all the information, you can add different layers of what information you need. All of this is customizable to whatever you want. Your autopilot is here, AP, autopilot, your heading, your altitude, nav, you can set the autopilot by setting in these buttons. Make sense?
Is that the trim? Nose up, nose down?
The nose up, nose down, where?
The buttons.
Here?
Yeah, with that.
No.
No. Which button are you referring to? These?
Above the altimeter. Nose down, it's there, yeah.
This one?
Right, upright. Those two buttons.
This one? This one. No. Autopilot, nose up and nose down. In the autopilot, you're doing nose up or nose down. Degrees, you're setting the degrees, how much nose up and down. This entire panel is autopilot. All of this is autopilot. Yeah, now, trim is here, right? I told you. Trim is that wheel, remember?
Down by the seat.
That's the trim. So you hold it with your hand and you do this. 1, 2, 3. That's nose up and this is nose down. It says nose up and nose down wherever it is, yeah? This is what it's supposed to be done. Look at that, explain level. Generally, you have a POH, Pilot Operating Handbook, in that area. You pull it out and refer to it. Yep. So, now, because I've turned on the autopilot, it's showing me. Now, if the autopilot is on, I can set the heading, right? I can set the heading here and it will automatically turn to that. You see what I mean? The heading is set to this, so it's automatically going there. I can set the altitude by here, changing the altitude. Oh, I don't want that. So, I lost that screen. Right? It's set to 1500, so it's staying at 1500. I can click on the altitude and I can change, for example, heading. Now look at that. Let's turn left, yeah? I'll change the heading to 124. Yeah, it should now start turning to the left. And those pink arrows is pointing that the autopilot is in effect. Now, if I reduce the power, it'll just stay there. I can change altitude, navigation, approach mode, everything. Nose up, nose down is basically, you see that? I click on nose up, your nose will go up now. Autopilot nose up, autopilot nose down. All of your Cessna 172s, Diamond DA40, throughout your training, you'll have the autopilot, but you're not allowed to use it in the beginning, but you are allowed to use it only when you're doing the long cross countries after a certain stage of training. Nose down, by pressing that button, yep, all of that is possible. Now, if you want to deactivate autopilot, you click on that, it gives you that sound that autopilot is deactive, right? So even if the autopilot is on, you can take control and push it. Even if the autopilot is on and you don't want to use the autopilot, you can. Let's cut the fuel. Let's bring the propeller to a complete stop. Yeah. Let's aim towards a flat ground. Now this will happen a lot of times during the training and you'll do a mid-air restart. Right now, the runway is a bit far away, but at least aim towards a flat ground. Very gentle, okay? Very gentle. Obviously, don't use flaps in engine shutdown failures because you don't need to create drag. You need all the airspeed. You need all the, you don't want to create drag until the last minute. You're at 1000. Oh, look at that, Burj Khalifa. Yeah, because we're on the Dubai airport, right? So it has all the maps.
Why is it so lonely?
If you go closer, I think it'll show you the other buildings. So when you're really close to the ground, right, just keep your nose level, like I'm landing somewhere in the sand here. Yeah, now brakes. Now, why is my altimeter showing 1020 feet? Isn't it supposed to show you 0? It's showing based on whatever the inches of mercury is set. It's right now set at 3102 inches of mercury. If you want your altimeter to show you 0 when you're on the ground, you need to have the most updated live air pressure on the ground. If the ATC tells you in our area, right now the air pressure on the ground is 29.7 inches of mercury. You have to set 29.7 inches of mercury here, only then it will show you 0 when you're on the ground. Does that make sense? That is why it is showing you 1020. And right now this indicator is your warning indicators. It's showing you that your oil pressure is very low. During your flight, if your oil pressure ever goes below the safe area, it will also show you in that indicator, but it will also show up here so that it can be visible, and it will also make a sound. Low voltage, if your battery while you're flying in the air has a low volt, if your alternator fails or if your battery is very weak, low volt will appear. Low vacuum, because vacuum is needed to run this instrument, right? Look at that. You see, right now my plane is perfectly flat on the ground, right? But because the engine is dead, the vacuum is dead, the gyroscope is dead, and the gyroscope has come to rest in a very weird position. Now, let me show you something, right? If I now start the engine, right? The engine is started. Look at that. Look at the gyroscope. The gyroscope came back alive. Does that make sense? Why? Because the gyroscope is now spinning. Sometimes the gyroscope will come alive in that way. It can happen. If the gyroscope came alive because you restarted the engine and if that's what you see, before you start taking off or before you start moving, you have to bring it to the white line. By the way, this may not be accurate because you're somewhere in the sand right now. You might not be in a perfectly stable condition. You might be slope up, down. So you have to make sure you're on a flat ground before you level this up. you have to make sure that your altimeter is set to the right number. Only then it will show you 0. Does that make sense? The ATC will tell you, see that? Now, another way of doing it is, you basically set, you know, until it's 0. Keep turning until it's 0 and then take off from that point.
Okay.
Right? All right. Let's take a break and then we'll continue on with some more instruments. There's a lot more about instruments. Well, now, when we come back from the break, we'll break down the instruments and see how the airspeed indicator from the inside looks like and all of the other devices from the inside. Everybody okay with that? All right, let's take a quick break. Oh, damn, the video is still on?
Sir,
My battery
what
must be
storage
dead.
will
I
you
have no idea.
1 hour video.
Is it? Woo!